What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Friday. We are back with some Manchester United news, a bit of a short, sharp, sweet news update. Some news, some fallout from the game yesterday against Fenerbahce in Turkey in the Europa League. Some transfer news, actually, about the future, surprisingly, of summer transfer signing, the first signing of the summer, which was Joshua Zirkzee. So we're going to be talking about that, kind of some fake news going on, and anything else in the world of Manchester United. But first, this video is proudly brought to you by OWEN. What's going on, guys? This show is powered by OWEN, the ultimate platform where real fans connect, debate, and shape the football conversation in real time. Whether you want to host a live show, jump in as a guest, or just listen in, OWEN is the place to be. It's a great app where you guys get to debate and chat with your favorite influencers, host your own audio shows, listen in, and chat with us too. Basically, have your own audio podcast. All you have to do is download the OWEN app. Sign up is really easy and quick, and the cherry on top is you get to create your own AI avatar. We've all done it by uploading a picture. You actually get some pretty hilarious results. Mine is a mixture of Harry Kane and a baby David Brent. It's audio only, so it's super easy to use. There's also a unique scoring system, so the more you engage on the app, the higher you can climb the ranks as well. And guess what? We'll be going live on Saturday with Flex and Nicky Hawkins from West Ham Fan TV, previewing Sunday's clash at the London Stadium. Just search for and follow the United View channel. Join that live show, vote for the best debate, and you can join in and talk too. So click the link in the description or scan the QR code to download the OWEN app, where fans like you and me shape each conversation. We'll see you there. We'll see you there indeed, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen right there. Nicky Hawkins outside London Stadium, West Ham Fan TV. will be going live with Flex Saturday, 10 a.m. to preview the match at the London Stadium. Of course, it's West Ham versus Manchester United in the Premier League, so be sure to download the OWEN app. Links in the video description, or if you just skip back a little bit, you can scan the QR code. It's well worth a download. You can get yourself a nice AI version of yourself like you saw there as well. Right, let's get into some of the news here. Let's talk about Joshua Zirkzee. A lot of people talking about Zirkzee last night after the 1-1 draw against Fenerbahce. And there's been this sort of weird thing going on social media this week. I don't know if you guys have seen this, suggesting, and it's largely reports kind of coming out of Italy, that maybe Zirkzee could be headed back to Italy as soon as possibly January. Well, it's fake news. This is what Fabrizio Romano's had to say about it. He has said that reports that Joshua Zirkzee is thinking of leaving Manchester United are false. He also continued by saying Joshua Zirkzee is fully focused on Manchester United, as he knows how important this chapter in his career is. The club are happy to wait for him to develop, just as they have with Rasmus Højlund. Now, as far as, I think, let's take it in kind of bits here. As far as the first bit about him having thoughts of leaving, or he could go in January, I never put that much stock into it anyway, so for Romano to come out and say, yeah, it's fake news, that's not really a real thing, I'm not really shocked by that. We only just signed him. It's not to say that there haven't been instances where, you know, players sign for clubs and then by January or 6 months later or 12 months later in the following transfer window, they're off because it's been a catastrophic failure, or they've had a falling out with the manager, or something's happened and they're leaving. But that's just not really the case with Joshua Zirkzee, is it? It's not a case of it hasn't worked out. It's not a case of, he hasn't really been playing that much. He started as recently as last night. He has had game time. It feels more obvious that Rasmus Højlund is the starting number 9 for Manchester United, but as he kind of should be, because he's been at the club longer. He's more of a defined striker, and it still feels like with Joshua Zirkzee, we're kind of figuring out just what kind of striker he is. Now, as far as the criticism of him last night, wasn't a great performance by him. He was involved in the goal, to be fair. Wasn't a great performance by a lot of Manchester United players. It's not really a good performance for Manchester United in general so far this season, right? There have been loads of games where I go, Man United were really, really good today, maybe once or twice. So Joshua Zirkzee isn't alone in that regard. I push back on some of the judgment on Zirkzee already, that he's dead, he's gonna be a flop, he's no good, he's this, he's that, he's not gonna work out at Manchester United. We don't know. That could very well turn out to be true. But earlier this summer, we applauded the reports about Omar Barada having that kind of two-season principle or that two-season rule when it came to players coming in, that if you bring them in, if they don't work out in 2 seasons' time, you get rid of them, or even maybe less than that, 18 months' time, something like that, then they can be out the door, because if they're not good enough for Manchester United, then we should be hanging on to dead wood, right? And I still stick by that, but I say when it comes to Zirkzee, it's still very, very early days of his Manchester United career. We'll see where he's at the end of the season. We'll see where he's at midway through next season, something like that, an 18-month period. You're kind of then starting to see what you're going to get. Sometimes for a young player and a striker, it's about settling down. It's about getting a few goals under your belt. It's about finding your role in the team, in the league, and seeing where it goes from there. So far, as I mentioned, it's not been amazing, but there have been some moments where I go, okay, I can see his qualities and where he needs to improve. I also go back to looking at the recruitment of Zirkzee once again, going, okay, we signed him. He's not really that kind of striker where it's like constant goal scorer. He's not really that striker that's like a leading the line kind of striker. He's more of sort of a drop deep, false 9.5, and bring players in, lay the ball off for, number 10s or wingers, that kind of striker. Is that how we really play at the moment? How does he kind of really fit? So I think there's a wider conversation about recruitment, and obviously the recruitment has had people looking at it over the last few days because of Sofyan Amrabat's comments as well about Ten Hag wanting to keep him and Jason Wilcox maybe overruling that, and they went with Ugarte instead. But what I would caution again when it comes to the complete writing off of Joshua Zirkzee is, I recall just a couple of days ago, actually the day of, yesterday morning, when we were talking about that Amrabat stuff, and a lot of the sentiment towards Manuel Ugarte is, this guy's a total flop. He's going to be one of Manchester United's worst signings ever. He's going to be this, he's going to be that, going to be that. And after last night, we're saying, actually, Ugarte played really well. And if it wasn't for Ugarte, we might have lost that game because he has a goal-saving block. I think him and Andre Onana are probably two people that can hold their heads up pretty high and go, well, if it wasn't for us, Manchester United would have lost that game against Fenerbahce. And now suddenly we're going, oh, we hope Ugarte starts at the weekend. So that's where you got to be careful with those kind of snap judgments of players that I've seen a couple of games, they're rubbish, get rid of them. Let's give him a bit of time and let's see how it goes. So as far as the sort of writing off of Zirkzee, wouldn't go that far just yet. And when it comes to the news of, oh, he might be considering leaving, or I never put that much stock into it anyway. So Romano's come out and said that's not true. And I'd have been very, very surprised. We're certainly not in the position to be selling any strikers unless we've got any plans to bring another one in. I think even with Zirkzee staying, if we could look in January to bolster attacking options with a more experienced striker, more natural striker, if we could do it. I mean, financially, we're kind of all over the place with PSR, aren't we? But if we could, why not try? I think we do need more options there. So I don't see any exit for Joshua Zirkzee anytime soon. Now, going to the game last night, nearly 24 hours on, how are we all feeling about it? To be honest, my feelings haven't really changed. I was quite, if you saw the end of the match view yesterday with KG, that comedian, and myself, quite deflated, really. Quite deflated, quite numb to it all at this point. I had my kind of big, angry, this isn't good enough, Manchester United should be doing better, standards on the floor several weeks ago. And I don't really see much point in doing that after every single game and performance, because it just why bother? Because you know what you're going to get with Manchester United at the moment. I still stand by what I was saying before the game, that I think, and this is where it gets a bit prickly, isn't it, that going into the game, I said that if it was a draw, I wouldn't be too bothered, and I'm not too bothered with a draw, in all honesty. When the draw was made with those Europa League fixtures, Porto and Fenerbahce were the ones earmarked going, oof, we'll see what happens with those ones. Could be draws, could be losses, we'll see. And in a vacuum, just separately, if you're going to take them game by game, you go, well, a draw, that's not the worst thing in the world. And look, a point away in Turkey is not the worst thing in the world. But then when you have to put it into the context of everything else that's going on with Manchester United this season, that's when it becomes problematic. When you haven't won a game in Europe in a calendar year, or excuse me, you've won once in one calendar year, which was Copenhagen at home and Andre Onana saves a last-minute penalty, that is a problem. It's all the other stuff. It encapsulates where Manchester United are at the moment, and it encapsulates that United feel completely directionless. They are, I can't even say treading water, because it's treading water but still sinking. It is one step forward but two steps back. And we do feel directionless, and it feels like, if anything, the direction that we are heading in, I mentioned this at the end of the match view, or I think on the full-time view actually, that it feels like we all know where this is kind of heading, which is, I don't think anything probably happens to Erik ten Hag in the next international break. Maybe it does at Christmas, and we all feel like we know we're going there, but we're just going to go there anyway instead of being preventative about it. Now, Erik ten Hag himself spoke after the game. It's a press conference that's for the game at the weekend, but they film it, of course, after the game in Turkey last night. Had some things to say, of course, on the defensive about a few things. He was talking about injuries once again. He said, when we have all players available, we're a really tough team to play. And when we have them, we can be really, really successful. And that is what we have shown over the last couple of months. I would push back on that and say, last couple of months, we've been god-awful over the last couple of months, in all honesty. And at the start of the season, make no mistake here, I know obviously people will point to, we had people missing last night. But at the start of the season, we didn't have a bunch of injuries, not to the extent we had last season, and we still were bad. Obviously, if you're going to have players missing, you're going to be worse, but we're bad anyway. So I'm not having the injury excuse, to be honest with you. Now, he kind of points out what I was saying there about in the vacuum, that the away points we've got thus far aren't the worst results. He says in the tough 2 away games in Europe, Porto and today again, this team has character and this team showed fighting spirit and determination to win games. Look, as far as determination to win games, in both games we've actually been leading and we've bottled it twice. So I don't know if that's, fighting spirit and determination. Granted, you could say against Porto, last-minute equaliser, that shows a bit of fight back. All right, fair, I'll give you that. But they're utterly predictable. I mean, we said when we went 2-0 up against Porto, we probably would need more, we'll blow this. We did. We said against Fenerbahce, don't concede after half-time. They did. Because that's Man United. That's how predictable they are, in all honesty. Now, I still think we'll go through in the Europa League, even if it is in the playoff phase. I still think we'll go through, and that's why last night wasn't the meltdown. Afterwards, for me, it was really disappointing. It's really boring, actually, watching Manchester United, frankly, at the moment too. But it's not the meltdown, because I still think we'll go through. The rest of the games we've got, I do think like that terrible record will end, and we will pick up victories in Europe. But it's just, it's funny because the thing almost Man United have got going for them at the moment in the Europa League is that it's not necessarily the best team that will win it, and good, because we're not the best team at the moment in that competition, in any competition. But in cup competitions, you don't have to be the best to win it. That's what hurts us in the league. When you're in the Premier League, you have to be the best to win it. The table really doesn't lie when it comes to the Premier League. When it comes to European competitions, it's a bit different at the moment, isn't it? Because you've got the giant league phase. But once it gets into a knockout format, the best team doesn't always win. It's just about who can go through. So that's what we've got going in our favour, honestly, for that one. And that's probably why we've done well in those cup competitions in the last few seasons as well. Now, this was a strange one. He was asked about the Tottenham defeat, or the Tottenham defeat was mentioned, and he said, I denied that game, ignored that game against Spurs because we were downsized to 10 with a 1-0 losing position, and then the red card was overturned, so I totally ignored that game. And when I read that, I thought, Erik, what are we doing here? That we're now into the position where we're just that game doesn't count. Things are getting bad when you're into that territory of basically that last season doesn't count. Well, when we're talking about these negative records about the Europe one, they certainly count. We say we've won one game in a calendar year. Well, that includes last season then, doesn't it? I know it was bad, and I know the injuries, and I know this, that, and the other, but we are really not in the position to just be waving off. Well, that's not really fair. With the Spurs one, red card and all that. And don't get me wrong, I know we've gone down this route with the hypothetical stuff, gone down the route of the hypothetical. well, you don't know if Bruno didn't get sent off. You never know what could happen in the game. And look, that is true. That is true. None of us will know. We don't live in the multiverse. So we can't check it out. I believe that Manchester United in that game were losing regardless of how many people were on the pitch. That game, we were awful. And frankly, had Timo Werner not been playing and Heung-min Son been playing, their captain, we would have probably lost way more than 3-0 because the amount of times they cut us open was ridiculous. We were absolutely shocking. So I count that game. I think a lot of people count that game. And certainly, when you look at the table, that counts. You know, we don't take 3 points off Spurs and just take the goals off Manchester United's goal difference. We don't count it. No. You know, Manchester United in that game were absolutely horrible. And it's the similar pattern of when we play a half-decent team, we lose because we'll do what we did last night when it comes back to all of it. Erik ten Hag was also asked about injuries. He said that holds us back in our levels and also in our position in the league because when you don't have players available, you can't line up the best team, and that's what's holding us back in this moment. He also then revealed plans about what they're going to be doing next. He said, we're staying overnight in Turkey, then straight to London, training Saturday. People they expect back, of course, Bruno Fernandes back from suspension because he missed the game in the week against Fenerbahce from his red card against Porto, and hopefully also Johnny Evans. Just going back quickly again, touching on the injuries one, that's what's holding us back at the moment in the league. It's bullshit. It is. And I've done a lot of the press conferences. So again, I get it. I totally get it that when you're in those pressers, we've spoken about it so many times. Sometimes you defend yourself, don't you? If you're criticised, if you're questioned, you defend yourself and you defend your record and you defend your players. And I don't have a problem with that. And you do sometimes have to take those comments for what they are. But we're not where we are in the league, and we haven't been playing the way we've been playing, not just this season, but last season as well, just solely because of injuries. It's not that. It isn't. You know, we when we've got all of our players back, and we started the season with a pretty fully fit squad, only a couple of injuries, and we were still playing the same football. We have played the same football for months, absolute months at this point, well over a year, possibly about 18 months. And regardless of who comes in or who's out injured, who is playing, whatever, it is the same. And that's why it was so deflating last night, wasn't it? It's because it's the same. It's the same. Now, I said going into the game last night, I felt the more important game for Erik ten Hag is on Sunday, with the game against West Ham at the London Stadium, because as I mentioned with the Europa League, I think we'll go through anyway. But whereas with the Premier League, we're just not in the position to be allowing bigger gaps to form. To people's credit that were saying, it's only 6 points between United and the top four and 31 games to go. Fair enough. I mean, we're definitely in that phase, aren't we now, where people, I see it as still, there's not room to be positive, but there's not room to be completely doom and gloom. Fair enough. We're into sort of outlook settings. But what we can't have in the Premier League is massive gaps begin to form and not be in touching distance of the top four. Maybe that's why Erik kept his job in the last international break, right? Because there was only 6 points in it, and it was early. So until there comes a time where they go, that gap is too big between United and the top four, then he'll probably stay in the job. If it gets too big and it's like 12 points, even 10 or something like that, come Christmas, they'll be like, that's too much. We need to fix that. We need to see if we can cut that down. So that's why he can't afford to drop points in the Premier League. West Ham aren't playing very well at the moment too. They've got Kudus missing. They are getting smashed by some teams. It's Lopetegui's having a difficult time. So you would hope it's the perfect time to play him and get an away victory. You never know with Man United. But for me, I've always said this week, I think that's the more important game. Because I kind of thought Fenerbahce, even though I was going with a win, I was like, well, could be a draw, could be a loss. It's not the end of the world. If we lose against West Ham, then I think he's in massive trouble. Because this is meant to be, this is meant to be the patch of games that we're winning. This is meant to be the easier run of games. So if we go from a situation where we won the first one against Brentford, which again we should have been doing anyway, and then it's like draw, loss, not good. If you win, then you go, well, that's back-to-back wins in the Prem, and you got a draw in the week, not too bad. So the margins right now are very, very fine. Very, very fine indeed. And we'll wait and see indeed how that plays out. So there you go, guys. A bit of a news update for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. For those asking, no Trinity today. Of course, we've got people all over the place. Flex is flying back from Turkey. He's probably in the air as we speak on the way back from Istanbul. KG, that comedian, he's actually on set today. He's got an acting gig, so congratulations to him. As you would have saw last night on the match view, even remote settings go, still managed to join for the match view. Appreciate everyone that tuned in last night as well. So no Trinity today. We did do one this week though. We wanted to make sure you guys did have one. It was a bit of a last minute, not emergency, but impromptu Trinity. It was actually on a Monday, so if you haven't already checked that out, and we'll be back with one next week when it comes to that as well. So click the like button, be sure to subscribe, get your thoughts in the comment section below, and tomorrow, reminder for Omeley, Flex will be with Nicky Hawkins outside London Stadium, West Ham Fan TV on Omeley, 10 a.m. We'll also have a match preview for West Ham versus Manchester United as well, so be sure to check that out as well. Click the like button, I'm out of here, peace!